What's going on? So we're gonna try something a little new today, which is you guys are just gonna go ahead and squat with me. So this is one of my go-to squat workouts. It's actually gonna have us back squatting and front squatting in the same day. Olympic weightlifters, don't lose your mind. But really, ideally, this is for CrossFitters, people who are looking to increase their Olympic weightlifting, but they're not necessarily professionals. So we're gonna hop right into it with a warm up. First things first, because I'm freezing, I need to warm up. We're just gonna do some 30 seconds of just these 2-step jumps. Just waking that body up. 30 seconds here. The only part that's gonna be tough is I'm used to doing this stuff by myself, so now I have to entertain the camera for whatever, 20 minutes or so. We got another 7 seconds here. Just staying light on those feet, trying not to allow our heels to touch the ground. And if it's in the cards, we're gonna go with single step jumps here for 15 seconds. We can do 15 seconds on our right, then we're gonna switch to our left. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, left. Whew. You don't realize how difficult these are until you actually start doing them. But yes, so the workout today, we got some back squats, we got some front squats, good little quad leg burner day. And we're gonna go straight into some walkouts in a squat position. So we're gonna squat down, walk our hands away from our body, walk our hands back towards, squatting back up. We're just gonna do that total of 5 times. So 4 more times here. Be nice and mindful in our movement. Now, just know, usually I don't look like a Portland hipster when I'm working out with my Joe Pesci hat, but it's mainly because my hair is super bad and I didn't want that to be on camera, so whatever, you can make fun of me. I lost count, but I think that's 5. Next, we're just gonna do 10 squat reaches. So we're sitting down in our squat position, chest is nice and high, trying to get that butt as low as I can. Right hand is gonna grab left shin, left hand comes to the sky, holding for a second, rotating. Left hand, right shin, right hand comes to the sky. Oh, working out in this Joe Pesci toque was a pretty big mistake. We're just gonna do this a total of 10 times. So 5 times per side. This is 3, 3. So this is really my go-to squat warm-up whenever I'm doing any sort of squats. If I'm going heavy, if I'm going light with high reps, just gets my body and my hips nice and primed. Last set here. And up from here, 15 air squats. So I just like to have my feet a little bit wider than my hips. Your squat position might look a little bit different. That's okay. We're just gonna come down, trying to mimic what that back squat is going to look like today. So I always think of pushing my knees out, trying to keep my chest nice and high, shooting my hips back. A common cue you'll hear with squats is keep the weight on your heels. That is a good beginner cue. I usually like to think of trying to make sure that I'm grabbing the ground with my entire foot. If your weight is too much on your heels, especially if you're thinking Olympic weightlifting, there's a chance that you're gonna fall back, right? So I'm trying to think of keeping the weight nice and balanced throughout my entire foot. The difficult part, and I respect Tony Horton for doing this all the time, talking and working out at the same time. I could have done like 35 reps by now. I have no idea. We're gonna move on. So, the workout, back squats. The way I like to do this is I actually set a 2-minute timer. That way my rest is nice and honest. When it comes to things like squatting, pressing, deadlifting, unless there's specific timed rest for a long time, people have a tendency to maybe chat with their partner or whatever it may be, and the rest ends up being like 2 minutes when it should have been 30 seconds. So today, on a 2-minute clock, we're gonna be doing 5 sets. We're going to do a set of 10, followed by another set of 10, then a set of 8, a set of 8, and last but not least, a set of 10. That will all be done on a 2-minute clock. So I'll do my 10 reps, and then I'm gonna rest the remainder of the 2 minutes. It usually ends up that you have about 1 minute and 15 seconds or so of rest. So before we just start tossing weight on the bar, I always recommend doing some empty barbell back squats just to prime that movement. It's gonna feel a little bit different than a standard air squat would. So once again, what I'm thinking, trying to think of keeping my feet or the weight distributed throughout my entire foot, shooting those knees out, keeping that chest nice and high. Always sort of, I'm always shooting to get my hips below parallel. The lower the bum goes, the prettier the bum grows. So once again, for our working sets, once we get there, we're gonna be doing 10 reps. And depending on your fitness level, maybe this first set here with the empty barbell is your first set of 10, and that is completely okay. I'm gonna rack this bar. So if you guys do have some sort of timer at home or just something that you've downloaded on your phone or your iPad, I always like to set that 2-minute interval timer. Keeps me nice and honest with my rest. Perfect. All right, so once again, I've already done my empty bar warm up. I'm gonna do another 2 warm up sets, actually adding some weight here. Once again, you shouldn't necessarily be adding what I'm adding onto the bar. You do whatever is in the cards for you today. If you don't have a barbell, probably should have said this at the beginning, but that's okay. You could totally do this with a kettlebell or a dumbbell, completely up to you. There's not a specific tempo that we're recommending for this workout today, okay? I like to think nice and controlled. I'm not crashing to the bottom. I'm controlling my squat the entire time. So if you're following along at home, you guys don't necessarily need to have a timer because you can just go when I go and rest when I rest. But for future, when you're doing this on your own, I highly recommend having a timer set up. I also recommend not talking during your reps. Once it starts to get heavier, I'm not going to be chatting during my reps, but it's too awkward to not have that silence. And I realize this shirt is on backwards. This is just a mess. It's all right. It's how you learn. Okay. So I have about 30 seconds on the clock here. Just enough time to change out my bar, add a little bit more weight, and I'm gonna count this next set as my first working set. Once again, you do you. If you don't have heavy weights or access to heavy weights, I would just do more reps. And don't rest as much at the top. So playing around with that tempo can really change how this workout is going to feel. So bars on my back, first working set of 10 here. And here we go. So once again, I'm not really resting at the top. That doesn't necessarily mean this is what you need to do. I think this is 10, but I'd rather do one more than one less. I'm gonna rack this. Thank goodness, I got about 90 seconds of rest here. So I'm gonna go ahead. We'll add another 10 pounds per side. So this is usually a strength session that will show up in my programming at least once a week. However, it's not always this rep scheme. So I'm treating this like this is the first week that you're doing this. So as the weeks progress, I would recommend usually doing this rep scheme in this set range for anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. Then afterwards, you're going to decrease the amount of reps that you're doing. So rather than doing 10s and 8s, I'd most likely be doing 8s and 6s, then 6s and 4s. It's this whole idea of progressive overload. This is how we get stronger. This is how we add more weight onto our back squat, onto our front squat, really with anything that we do. Whew. If you're in a pure strength sport, Obviously, these are still pretty high rep ranges. You're most likely playing with 1s, 2s, and 3s, and that's totally okay. We got 10 seconds. Oh, squats. And 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Some high bar back squats. I'm gonna try again with no rest at the top. Feel free to judge my squat performance. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think that's 10. Might have been 9. Talking and squatting is not my thing. We have 3 sets left. We now have 2 sets of 8. So once again, we are gonna add some more weight. Because I'm doing 2 less reps, I like to take a bit of a bigger jump. So right now, or the last set, I added 10 pounds on either side. This time, I'm gonna add an additional 15 pounds on either side. Once again, you do you. Don't go off of the weights that I'm putting on the bar. And if you don't have access to heavier weights, increase that rep range, increase that time under tension, meaning that no rest at the top and maybe a little bit more of a slower, controlled, concentric portion of your squat, meaning the down portion of your squat. So, what do we got? Got 35 seconds. I might be rambling too much and it's annoying. I'm sorry if that's the case. I just figured it's better than just dead air. We're planning to do cleans and snatches with you guys in this type of video format as well. Just giving you tips and tricks throughout. So on this next set of squats, we're doing 8. I'm most likely not going to be taking no pause at the top. 10 seconds before we go. Now, since it's heavier, I might have a tendency to lose that chest, so I'm gonna focus on keeping that chest nice and high. In 3, 2, 1. Here we go. So I lied. I did not take a rest at the top. It felt pretty good. Oh, I'm gonna add another 10 pounds per side. So with this wave format, right, our sets, we have 10, 10, 8, 8, 10. This is my last set of 8 before I go to 10. The goal for me personally, this is in my opinion what I like to do, when I go for my last set of 10, if I can, I'm gonna try to keep the exact same weight that I used for my first set of 8, all right? If you want to do the same weight that you did for your second set of 8, that's perfectly okay as well. But for me, just how my body's feeling today, I'm gonna go with my first set of 8. Oh. I have about 45 seconds on the clock. I know I don't have clips on the bar. Put clips on your bar for safety reasons. I just don't have them readily available. I mean, I'm in a gym, so I do have them readily available. I'm just lazy. That's really it. We got 25 seconds. It's our last set of 8. It's a lot of squats today, right? We're doing back squat, we're doing front squat. It's a good way to get both different variations in there. They both have different reasons for their existence. We got 7 seconds. In 3, 2, 1. 8 reps, last set here of 8. There we go. 8 reps. Last set of 10. I'm gonna go back down to what I did for my first set of 8. So with the camera angle, you might not notice, and maybe you feel this as well. as the weight tends to increase, I have a tendency for my knees to come in a little bit. So that's why my big cue to myself in my own head is to be pushing those knees out, just because I don't want to collapse those knees in too much. I'm also mindful, it's not a big deal if your knees go over your toes. You're actually going to notice when you go to front squats, our knees will actually track over our toes a little bit more, just with the way that the bar is positioned. That's totally okay. But you do want to be mindful of how much your knees are going over your toes depending on your mobility, only for the reason that if your knees go too much forward and you can't control that, you might have a tendency for the weight to not be evenly distributed anymore. It'll go more towards your toes, meaning you might lose that bar forward. So if we think of doing cleans or snatches, a common miss is people losing the bar and forward, and that's because they're not balanced. Little pro tips for you guys. So we got 15 seconds. Last set of 10 here. I'm sorry if I'm breathing like, if it's super loud. 5. I didn't know what I was going to say there. 2, 1. Last set of 10. And then we got front squats. It's 8. That's 9. Oh, 10. There we go. So, for me, what I've noticed, when I don't rest at the top or reset at the top, I actually have a tendency to lean a little bit more forward. So, just some things that I know I need to correct. But kind of feel it for yourself, right? When you're squatting, where do you notice that weight? Is it more on your heels? Is it on your toes? Is it nice and flat? Okay, so we got 60 seconds of rest. We're gonna go straight into our front squats. Same idea. On a 2-minute timer, we're gonna be doing 4 working sets. The first set I like to do as a warm-up. If you wanna do 2 or 3 warm-up sets, that's completely okay, depending how comfortable you are with this movement. The reason, or one of the reasons, why I like to combine both back squat and front squat in the same day is front squat for a lot of people, if it's something you're not comfortable with, this is a great time to work on the technique of how a proper front rack position should be while your legs are fatigued. Whew. Control your breathing, Isaac. So we're actually gonna give ourselves another 2 minutes of rest before we go into our front squat, just so we can explain some things, which is, if you have not done a front squat before, obviously we're not going to be adding weight. Just think of doing it with the empty barbell. You'll see a lot of people do this crossed arm version. Sure, it's fine. Personally, I don't recommend doing that way. I always like to try to think of having as much grip as possible on the bar, especially if you're into CrossFit or Olympic weightlifting. This front rack position is vital if you're doing things like cleans, right? So when I'm front squatting and I'm grabbing the bar, the biggest cue that I tell myself is elbows up. Reason for it, if my elbows go down, what's gonna happen? My chest is gonna go down. Then what's gonna happen? The weight's gonna roll forward and I'm gonna lose it. So I always think of keeping that chest, keeping those elbows nice and high. If we can, if our mobility allows us to, trying to get a full grip onto that bar. So we got about 70 seconds left before our first set. So you can see I'm treating this first set as a warm-up. Still have some weight on the bar. You can go empty barbell. That is a-okay. Full grip on that bar. Fight to get those elbows up. If you're struggling, you can let it roll onto your fingertips. That's okay. That most likely means that you need to work on some shoulder mobility. It's a common misconception that it's your wrist mobility. It's really not. It's your shoulder mobility. Okay? And you'll notice I don't have the greatest shoulder mobility, but once you continue to work on it and you continue to do these movement patterns, your body will adapt. We got 30 seconds before we go into our front squat work. 4 sets, 5 reps here, okay? Increasing as we go, or staying at the same rep, or sorry, staying at the same weight. That's completely up to you. We got 10 seconds. I'm gonna go ahead and get set here. I like to pretend that the knurlings are going to be cutting my fingernails in half. That's usually my grip range. And I'm just going to adjust the mic here because I don't want to crush it. Okay, so 5 reps. This is just my warm up here. So same concept, pushing those knees out, keeping that chest nice and high, fighting to keep those elbows high. That's 3, that's 4, and that's 5. I'm gonna add my weight. So this is my first working set. We got 5 total. Once again, I personally like to add weight as I work through my sets, depending how you're feeling that day. If you're feeling a little bit blah, a little bit beat up, if your whoop is telling you got like 30% recovery, then just pick a weight and stay there. Maybe go a little bit lighter for the day. That's a-okay. We got 55 seconds left. Catching your breath, grabbing a sip of water if you got it. The weightlifters are probably getting mad at me that I'm just pacing around. It's okay to set up a bench and just sit. If you're enjoying this video, please let me know that I'm not just talking to myself. If I'm talking too much, you can let me know that as well. We got just about 20 seconds here going into our first set of front squats. 15. So once again, I've added weight for my first set, getting primed and ready. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. First set done. Obviously you guys might have been working while I was doing my set. That's okay. So what you might notice while you're doing your first working set is at the bottom, maybe your elbows come down a little bit and you get this little like scoopy butt wink first, then your elbows come up. That's okay. Just be mindful of it and correct it for your next set. So thinking coming down nice and controlled, knowing that I got to keep those elbows up to drive out of the bottom position. 60 seconds. We have 3 more sets done, 3 more sets to go, then we're all done. And that's it. This could be your full workout for the day, or if you have a little conditioning, a little Metcon piece you want to add on afterwards, that's okay as well. I did a run this morning, so I'm not gonna do any conditioning afterwards. I'm good. Plus, this high rep range, this is CrossFit enough. My goodness. We got 25 seconds. "15 seconds. I gotta say, if it wasn't for having a 2-minute timer though, I would be taking either way too little rest or way too much rest. There's never the right amount. 5 seconds. So I didn't add weight on, staying here, that's okay. Let's go. Second set done. I'm gonna add on some weight for my third set. Feel free to do so as well. Same rules apply if you don't have enough weight at home. Increase that rep range. increase that time under tension. Go slower on the down portion or the concentric portion of your movement. Oh, sorry, the eccentric portion of your movement. I think I made that mistake before too. Go slower on the eccentric portion of your movement. Maybe pause in the bottom. Control your concentric portion of the movement. There's a lot of ways to make lightweight feel heavier. You just got to play around with that time under tension. You'll often see it referred to as TUT, T-U-T. Any one of Luke's clients knows how much he loves TUT. So we have 2 sets left here. How do you feel? Feel like you can add more weight? Feel like you need to take off some weight? Are you sitting pretty? Are you the right weight? You got 25 seconds. I don't know about you, but my legs they're getting pretty toasty. They are warm. 15 seconds. 10. All right, friends, let's go. Let's get set up. Full grip on that bar. 5, 3, 2, and 1. Oh, okay. One more set. Since it's the last set, you know we got to add a little bit more weight. So question for you guys. When you're squatting, when you finish, do you walk under the bar and around, or do you step back? I've always was against going under the bar. I feel like it's disrespecting the bar. But lately I find that I step back a lot and it gets in my own head. We did this poll on TikTok where we asked the question, and most people step back. They think you're crazy if you go forward. I personally, I don't. You do you. We got 55 seconds. So last set here, this might be your heaviest set. Once again, you'll notice all the reps I'm doing as well. If you've seen, try not to be sloppy, right? I want these to be nice, controlled reps. Every rep should be nice and pretty. Hips are going below parallel, keeping those elbows nice and high. Trying to fight too much of that butt wink, right? If you have it, that's okay. Pushing those knees out. We got 15 seconds until our last set, and we're all done. 10 seconds. Let's go. Full grip on that bar. 5, 3, 2, 1. I feel like I've done a lot of this heavy breathing into the mic, I'm sorry. All right, friends, so that is it. That is all. Just a nice little quick leg workout for y'all. Once again, this is something that I do weekly. I just play around with the rep ranges. So if you want to do this exact same workout for the next 2 weeks, obviously make sure you're tracking down the weight that you've used every week. Try to increase a little bit. Then when you decrease the weights, maybe in your 3rd or 4th week, back squats go from 10s to 8s and 8s to 6s. Then you can add or take a bigger step in your weight increase. For your front squats, I don't like to go too low. I would usually maybe go as low as 3, but I usually like to stay around 5 and use it more for technique work. Obviously, depending on your specific goals, this might look different. If you're trying to work on pure strength, obviously 5s and 10s aren't gonna have a lot of use for you. You're probably playing around more so with 3s and 2s. So do whatever is right for your training. Try this out. I hope you liked it. If you did, please let me know. Smash the like button. Do whatever you gotta do. With all that being said, hope you guys have the best day ever. Bye for now.